What's up guys, I'm Phoenix Master 1 and welcome to my analysis of Mythic Veyle's banner, and I'll be going over my tier list of the Astra Mythic units and what to expect next month. So Veyle is our latest Astra Mythic unit as a blue infantry mage, and this is our second blue Astra Mythic after Naga, all the way back all those years ago. And she is going to be opening up the 6th slot and also boosting up the defense of the Astra Blessed allies. And I believe this is the first time we've got a Dark Tome for the blue mages. So we have got Obscurity as the preferred weapon of Veyle, which is going to be giving her minus on special cooldown. And at start of turn, she can give herself and the allies within 2 spaces the +6 attack and resistance visible buff, and also Resonance Blades and Resonance Shield status effect. So she basically functions like the Asker of the Astra season, similar to how Asker gives that to the allies in Light season. So this is pretty good to have as a support. And these are the visible status effects, so they are going to be contributing towards the prime skill activation if you're going to be running any kind of Omni tank with that kind of skill. So visible status effects are definitely pretty good, and this can also be really helpful in something like Summoner Duels where you can just give the extra stats to your allies. So she provides some good support with this weapon, and it also provides her with +5 to all of her stats, and also gives her the guaranteed follow-up attack, and she can deal true damage based on 20% of her resistance, excluding the AoE specials, which is a bit annoying because Arvel does get the extra added true damage to their AoE specials, whereas Veyle doesn't really get that. So true damage is still pretty good, but kind of sad that it doesn't really add to the AoE specials. And then finally, she is going to be completely neutralizing any kind of foes buffs to their attack and resistance. So basically the dull attack resistance effect, which is going to be helpful for her to clean up her enemies that may have any sort of visible buff, and it is also helpful in Summoner Duels. And then she has got Iceberg and attack resistance finish 4, which is helpful because we did get the attack resistance finish 3 fodder recently on the Halloween banner with Seadoll. So if you are trying to fodder her, then this is going to be helpful. And she comes with the tier 4 version of a tempo skill, which I didn't really expect this early on. So this is going to be giving the -4 attack and resistance debuff on the foe, and it is the full tempo skill, so it disables any kind of guard skills or any kind of special acceleration of the opponent. And then it also has the damage reduction halving, which we have seen before on magical null follow-up and physical null follow-up. And this is such an amazing skill for so many slower mages because they don't really take too much advantage of null follow-up effect out of magical null follow-up because of being slower, and now they can get best of both worlds by having the tempo effect and also having the damage reduction halving, which is really good. So this is going to be the best in slot skill for many of these slower mages, but it is going to be hard to get because there's not really any kind of demote or grail unit with the tempo 3 skill of this. Maybe in the divine codes we get that, so it is a bit harder to chain the fodder. But yeah, tempo 4 is really good for many of the mages, and it is going to be helpful especially in Aetherite's defense because you're going to be facing enemies with the Scowl effect, especially now that Veyle is here, and also Lucia's. So having this kind of damage reduction halving on a Bridal Catcher team can be really good, so that you can trigger a special on your Bravehead because of the null guard of the tempo skill, and then you can also have the damage reduction, which is really good. So gonna be nice on Bramimond, Arvel, Duo Asker, and mages like that. And Veyle, of course, uses this really well herself because she is not the fastest. She has got base 30 speed, and she is going to be really good because of her Slotsy skill in Fel Protection. So this is a really big description. I wish they had done a better job. So this pretty much gives her +5 attack and resistance in the player phase, or if she's within 2 spaces of an ally for the enemy phase. And then if she has got more resistance than foe's resistance +5, then she can get 30% damage reduction in the combat, and also gets the Scowl effect. Now keep in mind that this check that Veyle herself gets for her own combat is going to be using the in-combat resistance. I'm really emphasizing that because she has got 2 different kinds of resistance check in this Slotsy skill, and with how big description is, a lot of people do tend to get confused. So those are the 3 things that she's going to be getting herself in the combat. And she also has the drive support in the Slotsy skill, which is going to be giving the effect to allies in 2 spaces. So she's going to be able to provide them with +4 attack and resistance buff in their combat, and also give them 30% damage reduction, just like Elamine. And then the main effect why she is really good support unit is the fact that she's got Drive Scowl. And keep in mind that this kind of effect is going to be checking for Veyle's visible resistance because it does say at start of combat. So it is going to be checking her visible resistance against the opponent of your ally that you're going to be facing. So you don't necessarily need to run her with allies that have got high resistance, because she is going to be the one who's going to be doing the resistance check using her visible resistance. And that's why the finish skill is a bit weird on her, because Still Water is actually the better skill, because you need to have as much visible resistance as possible so that your allies that are tanks do get the Drive Scowl effect from her Slotsy skill. So the description is pretty big, but the practical use is pretty simple here. Overall, Veyle is a really solid Astra Mythic unit because of her unique Drive Scowl effect that she can provide to her tanks. And keep in mind that these Scowl effects do stack up. So if you're running her with any kind of dragon with this Scowl skill, or any kind of unit who does already have the Scowl effect, then it is going to be stacking. And it is going to be making sure that you can decharge the opponent's pre-charge specials. And this can also be helpful against many of the special Spiral 4 nukes. And this is something which is going to be helpful in Aether Raid's offense, especially against the menace that is Wind Tribe Claude, because you're going to be able to avoid the instant lethality that he has got with his weapon with the Drive Scowl effect. And of course, he is going to be triggering lethality on his follow-up attack with his weapon on any kind of decent team, because he's going to be getting a lot of status effects. But at least you're not going to be eating double lethalities, which is really good. And even if he has got a million status effects, he doesn't really get the special cooldown more than the maximum special cooldown count that he has got. So it is definitely going to be helping you against him in the combat, at least when it comes to the first hit. And hopefully you can try and take him out with your retaliation, because he's not going to be triggering lethality on the first hit. And there's really nothing you can do to prevent the lethality that he triggers on his follow-up attack, especially on good teams that do give him a lot of status effects. But still, this is going to be helpful, and it does make Veyle into a pretty good support unit for many of the tanks, for Omni tanks, for safe tanks. But still, you're going to be facing Brattle Catcher teams which can get the Brave effect. And now with Freyr, there's not much you can do to really stop the Brave hits. So it can still be hard to tank in some cases, but at least Veyle does provide you with the support so that you can tank better. And she gives Drive Scowl effect to everyone, so even units who don't really have access to Scowl skills can easily run this. And for the dragons, they can stack up the Scowl skill, which can really help you quite a lot. And she's also really useful in Summoner duels, because she could be run with Brave Sorin, and he could be making someone like Summer Ymir into a far safe tank. And she's going to be able to take advantage of the Drive Scowl effect, which is really good. So she is overall amazing for Summoner duels, also for Aether Raid's offense, and even for Aether Raid's defense in the Chaos season, because she is a really good nuke. And in Aether Raid's offense, her nuking potential is going to be helping you with the cleanup. But unfortunately, the drive support that she provides is going to be susceptible to the feud effects, and especially Blue Feud, which is available in Divine Codes 4 on Tine. So a lot of people are going to be probably foddering off Tine to like Wind Tribe Claude so that he can completely ignore the Drive Scowl effect and still trigger double lethalities. So that is something you'll have to watch out for. But I would say that Colorless Feud is a lot more common than Blue Feud at this point. But maybe Veyle could change that depending on how much usage that she gets. But I can definitely say that many of the Wind Tribe Claude users are going to be running the Blue Feud Slotsy skill specifically for combating Veyle. And Veyle does get countered by the Rally Spectrum effect of Brave Male Robin, so that is something you also have to watch out for, which is going to be nullifying her support. And also against very high resistance nukes, they are going to be having more resistance than Veyle many times, so she's not going to be able to give the Drive Scowl effect, which is something you'll have to watch out for. But when it comes to her bonus season in Aether Raid's offense, she's going to be having plenty of resistance, especially if you run a good build with her with Still Water 4 and just stacking up resistance on her, which I think she needs a lot as a support unit. And if you're going to be using her for more combat purpose, then attack resistance finish 4 is pretty good, and you can also run Remote Sparrow. And for her slot B, I think that the tempo skill is really good. But for Summoner duels or Aether Raid's defense chaos, Sabotage attack resistance can work, but it's not really something I would recommend for Aether Raid's offense, because Freyr is simply going to be cleansing any kind of Sabotage status or the debuff, so that's why it's a decent option for doubling down on the support, and really no changes to her slot C. And she can run Phantom Resistance so that she can have the better visible resistance check for her Slotsy skill, and Still Water is something that she can run for having more attack if you do want to use her for the combat. And the new Squad Ace BU Sacred Seal is also pretty good, giving you extra visible attack and resistance, and also extra HP. And now let's take a look at my Astra Mythic tier list and see where Veyle can rank. So when it comes to tier 1, I would definitely put Plumeria, because she is a Mythic dancer, and that's always good. Even if she's not as good as Peony, but she is going to be getting a remix and refine in November along with Legendary Dimitri, and I'm hoping that the remix at least can help her give out like another status effect. That would be pretty cool. And she's probably going to be getting a combat weapon refine, but I hope that it does have a bit more supportive effect. And Flying Dancers can run a lot of really good skills to support like Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance now, and we also have tier 4 dance skills. So Plumeria is really good for the Astra season. And then we have got Veyle here, and I would definitely put her in tier 1 because the Drive Scowl effect is really strong for both Ether Raids and Summoner Duels, and she also can be a good option in Ether Raids defense in the Chaos season. And helping tanks have that kind of Drive Scowl effect, in my opinion, is really good. And she's also a pretty good nuke. And then I would also have Haether in tier 1, and she does help with a lot of the player phase teams, especially nowadays because we have got Freyr. A lot of Catria bolts have come back, and Catria bolts a lot of the times are going to be low threat range, so you can take your time to set up, and Haether can just function as a really good nuke and also really good support with her Gold Serpent assist. And in Summoner Duel, she can also be useful with the extra action for the action economy. So overall, I do think that she's pretty good, even though Freyr can get rid of the debuffs and the guard status with his debuff cleansing. But still, like, she can nuke herself really well and also make other units into good nukes. And finally, in tier 1, we're going to be finishing it off with Haether. It's almost been a year since her release, and I think that she's still really strong because she can end the action of the enemies with her future focused, and that is just so useful for so many different teams. Even if you're tanking, you can shut down a threat, or you could even force the dancer to come and dance on the front lines, and then you can snipe the dancer. You can see my Ether Raids offense videos, and you'll see me use Haether with a lot of different ways. And she is absolutely disgusting when it comes to Gale Force teams because she can end the action of like 3 opponents, which is really good. So for Gale Force team, she's going to be amazing. And even for pot collection, she can just freeze the opponent in their spot, and you can just get the pots with your allies or with her own mobility as a ranged cavalier. So I do think that Haether is still really good. And in tier 2, I would only have Altina. So Altina has gotten an amazing refine and remix, and she can function well in Ether Raids offense, but also in Summoner Duels, she is absolutely amazing. And I think she's a lot better in Summoner Duels than she is in Ether Raids offense because she can have access to Guidance 4, Soaring Guidance, she can run Guard Bearing 4. With Twin Blades, she can pierce through the damage reduction, which is really important, especially nowadays. So she can function really good as a frontliner and even as a raid boss. And in Ether Raids offense, she could function as a Vantage unit, but you'll have to watch out for Hardy Bearing opponents, especially after Brave Mart's Weapon Refine and also Fallen Female Byleth. I have seen a bit more Hardy Bearing, but still Altina is really good. And in tier 3, I would start off with Regan. She does have the Kanto utility, and she can be pretty good for the pot retrieval. And she does have Haether Shell, which is going to be helping you quite a lot, especially for just the cleanup of the enemies. And it can still hit pretty hard, but the damage output has definitely fallen off now that we have got a lot of really bulky units and a lot of damage reduction. Still, she can be helpful on different kinds of teams. And we also have counter control now, which is something you'll have to watch out for. And how the mighty have fallen with Elamine being in tier 3. So I do think that Elamine has fallen quite a bit because of Freyr. And in Vault of Heaven against any kind of good team, you're going to be facing Freyr because Freyr is just really good as an Anima Mythic. And Freyr just completely gets rid of the false start that she can inflict. So she's mostly going to be there for the damage reduction and the visible buffs that she can provide, and not really for false start, which she was really known for stopping Bridal Catria and so many of the other skills which can trigger. So I think that Elamine has definitely fallen off. And like against any kind of good Anima team, you're going to be facing Freyr, especially like top tier teams in Vault of Heaven. They're going to be having Freyr, and especially after this banner, they're going to be having even more Freyr because the blue share is with Veyle. So Elamine is going to be here because Freyr is just too dominant as a Anima Mythic unit. And starting tier 4, I would have Thor. Now, I would say that I was one of the strongest soldiers of Thor, but unfortunately, nowadays, like, her combat has fallen pretty badly for many of the Gale Force teams because a lot of teams will have null follow-up, will have damage reduction, just too much bulk, and she even struggles to kill Freyr. And I would say that when she came out, she used to be the strongest link for my Gale Force teams with her World Breaker, but simply we have gone past that. And now that I use her in the Astra season, I feel like she's the weakest link of my Gale Force team because it's not easy for her to initiate against many of the threats. So I would definitely put her here because of her combat, unfortunately, which makes me sad. but I'll have to do that. And then Naga can be a decent buff bot with her Slotsy skill and also for Dragon Slaying, especially because we have got Brattle Tiki and Brave Female Corin, so the Dragon effectiveness can definitely be helpful. And in the final tier, I'm going to be having Ashera because her support is completely outclassed. We've got Veyle here who can provide the visible attack and resistance buff and also give even more support. And Null Panic of Ashera is simply not as unique as it used to be because we have got so many skills and things that can give Null Panic. We've got Garrick who can easily give everyone Null Panic. We have got inedible weapons now with Null Panic, just to show you, how the status is not that unique anymore. And that's a bit unfortunate for Ashera because she's going to be here for a while because her remix and refine is a year away. So let me know what you think about my Astra tier list, and overall this banner is going to be providing you with some incredible value when it comes to the blue pool because Veyle is going to be color sharing with legendary female Shez, who's absolutely amazing as a nuke, and we also have Freyr, and I think that Freyr is the best Anima Mythic, so that is really good for the people who are going to be summoning on this banner. And Red Pool is also pretty good with Felix and Diamant being good units, and they also provide good fodder. Colorless is alright, I suppose, with Rearmed Alchrist providing you the Arcane Bow, Flash Barrow, and Arvel is still a pretty good Anima Mythic and can be useful in summoner duels. And I think that green is definitely the weakest color here with E3 and Legendary Xander. Citrine is carrying green colors so hard on her back with the support that she can provide. And now with the Attune skills, she has got another tool in her arsenal. The next month, we're going to be getting probably a ninja theme banner, or if they want to change the theme, then probably a new theme seasonal banner. And Sather and the Engage banner are going to be getting a Forging Bonds rerun as well, which is pretty good if you're trying to get merges on Sather, as you can spark on that banner. And we're probably going to be getting new Rearmed Hero later down the line in November with a new Heroes banner, and probably more attuned heroes depending on how often they want to make them. And a double special heroes banner can also happen with units like Tea-Time Ira, and then Summer Tharja, Summer Ephraim, Summer Ivy, Tea-Time Lasithia, and more units. So it is something you can watch out for. And because it is November, the next month is going to be a double OC month because Book 7 is going to be coming to an end. And that's pretty much how it has gone for past few years. So I do expect a new Mythic unit and a new Legendary unit. And probably Quasir is going to be our new Mythic unit as a Dark Mythic because it's going to be a year at this point since we got Embla as our last new Dark Mythic unit. And then I do think that the regular Gulvig could be a Legendary unit because she's the final form essentially. And she also has the cohort text in her weapon, which kind of hints at a Legendary unit because, cohorts cannot be for Mythic units. They cannot use the pair up function. So that's why I do think that she can be the Earth Legendary unit, which is something that we are supposed to get in November. So it will be the first time that we have double OCs that are not going to be color sharing, which is definitely breaking the pattern. They could maybe put another OC in the red slot in the place of Fallen Female Byleth. It's either Fallen Female Byleth, Ascended Fur, or maybe new OC, but I think that it's probably going to be Gulvig in the colorless because Guinevere is going to be getting her first rerun, and they usually try and double down with the value whenever a new Legendary or Mythic unit gets rerun. So that's why I do think that Gulvig is possible. So we'll know at the end of November if I was right or wrong. And I hope you all enjoyed this video. Make sure to share this video with your friends if they're thinking of pulling on this banner. And if you did enjoy this video, then make sure to leave a like and a comment, helps you tremendously. And if you really enjoyed, you could always support me directly by using super thanks down below or by becoming a YouTube member. And for more FEH videos, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell because YouTube sub boxes are about as functional as Veyle's Drive Scowl against Rally Spectrum. So with that said, I'll see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching and have a great day.